Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Inside Outlook. So today I want to talk about 3 novels that are known as the Bas-Lag series by China Mieville. These are all standalone novels set in the same fantasy world with some loose connections. China is not Asian. He's actually a white British man who just happens to have a unique name. And he also happens to look like a pirate, but his looks are not important. The first novel, Perdido Street Station, was written in the year 2000, and I didn't hear about it until 2020. That's part of why I'm making this video, because China Mieville needs more hype. I've watched a lot of reviews of these novels, and some of them are alright, but none of them really hit the mark. Some reviewers will say stuff like, "This was one of my top 10 books of the year." But for me, that's not nearly enough praise. The worst review had this guy who said, Mieville uses a lot of $10 words when he should be using $3 words. It's true that some authors, particularly postmodern authors, write with a thesaurus and it's obvious, but Mieville is not one of those authors. His novels are not particularly dense. He just has some choice words he likes to use a lot, like vertiginous, tremulous, salubrious, furtive, detritus, various scapes. But it's not clunky writing. It's ethereally beautiful. I couldn't be more impressed. I mean, is China Mieville related to Shakespeare or something? He really is a Masamune wordsmith. The imagery in this novel is off the charts. You will read some novels and think, oh, that's a good description. I can picture it perfectly in my mind. But this is beyond great. If you went to the Wizard's Tower and met the greatest master of imagery, it would be China Mieville. I don't know anyone with better imagery. Do you? Let me know in the comments. That's the imagery, but the prose itself is brilliant. Even my favorite novels will only have gems of prose here and there. But this has wonderful prose throughout the entire novel. He is unequivocally a literary genius. And I don't throw around the word genius. I'm not a steampunk guy. I like my sci-fi to have advanced technology, spaceships, AI, sprawling empires, and I like my fantasy to have castles and swordplay. Mieville's weird fantasy steampunk world is not generally my cup of tea, but I was blown away reading Perdido Street Station. One of those rare books where I just keep thinking, this guy is so good while I'm reading. The plot and characters serve their purpose, but they're not what make Perdido Street Station a great novel. It's the prose and the setting that elevate this to the top tier of fiction. Perdido Street Station actually feels more like a true literature classic than a fantasy book. The Scar is the second book in the series, and it is equally great. It's an epic adventure that I think will appeal more to the traditional fans of the fantasy genre. No spoilers, but there is an ancient empire called the Ghost Head Empire, and you get snippets of lore throughout the story. I don't want to say too much about the plot, but the setting is a giant floating city. The imagery is amazing, the setting is excellent, the characters are pretty good, and it has a great plot. This book is beyond impressive. The third book, The Iron Council, is by far the weakest in the series. It felt like try-hard avant-garde. That sounds harsh, but compared to the other 2 novels, it felt like the quality fell off a cliff. Mieville actually considers this his favorite of the 3 novels, but you know when musicians have a great album and then they put out their new album and it's not as good, but they consider it their best work? Although the prose is still high quality, the plot is ridiculous, the characters are bad, and the setting is not as vivid as in his other books. I can't recommend this novel. Of course, there will be readers out there who agree with the author and think this novel is amazing. Maybe the best of the 3. It's all subjective. I'm not trying to hate, just giving my opinion. Rating the novels, I give both Perdido Street Station and The Scar an A+, and a B- to The Iron Council. I read over 100 books a year, and I rarely give an A+ rating to any book of any genre. you seriously have to read the first 2 Bas-Lag books. And of course, some people won't like them, but try to keep an open mind. Get past the weirdness and realize he's not a snob using fancy words. He's an artist creating a masterpiece. Mieville said he plans to return to the world of Bas-Lag at some point, and I will be buying that book on day 1. Mieville has many other novels not set in Bas-Lag, and I will be doing future episodes of other Mieville works because he's one of my favorite authors of all time, and he just happens to be a living writer who is only 51 years old. That's all for today's show. If you have any thoughts, disagreements, whatever, let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.